Welcome back, everyone, to the seventh house with Prash Trivedi. Today is a very exciting house because we're also going to start going into the oppositions. So I welcome my guest, Prash Trivedi.
Yes, it's good to be here, Julie. It's good to be here. Yes.
Usually, in Western astrology, the seventh house is associated with your marriage partner. It could also be business partnerships, people that you deal with directly on a daily basis. It's also, they put contracts into this. So business partner contracts, all of that. I would love if you can illuminate us with the root of the seventh house.
Right. So let's go back again, like we always do, from the last house. Okay, so last house, Julie, we were at the sixth house, right? So what was the sixth house about? Sixth house about was the discipline, your routine, your schedule, and all of that was sixth house, that work thing.
Yes.
Okay. So once you've done that work, once you've done that discipline, what happens next? Okay. Then you meet people, other beings, because you are not alone in this multiverse, right? You are a being and there are a lot of other beings. Okay. So it'll always happen so that you will have to meet other beings. You'll have to interact with other beings. That will happen. Okay. So whenever you deal with any being at all, do you know what I'm saying? That is seventh house. Not just like what things you mentioned. I'm just saying any being, any interaction with any being, which comes in front, because any being you'll interact with, they'll come in front of you, right? So that'll be seventh house. Okay. So any interaction with any being is seventh house. Okay. So that's the first thing. So, and what helped us get here, that personal self-discipline is, and all the six houses up till now have been leading to this. Okay. First house, you establish your sense of self, your own work, that thing. Second house, eating, that thing, whatever, your efforts, your mental things, your intelligence. And then finally comes your discipline, self-discipline in daily activities, routines, So then only you are ready now to meet others, right? All the first six houses are a preparation for this to happen. Okay, because when we have a meeting with someone, or when we come across someone, what's the whole point of this exercise? Meeting someone, or dealing with someone, is that it should be beneficial to both parties. In other words, it should be an evolving experience for both parties involved. So any interaction, seventh house, should be positive, right? Positive for both parties, not just one party, positive for both.
Yes.
Parties. Okay, so that's the whole point. And unless the first to sixth are happening properly and you've got it all sorted, then the interaction won't be able to be positive. If there's a problem.
Wow. So it's like if the foundation is faulty,
so if the first to six houses, you have not done the work properly, and the sixth house, especially the one comes before that, the discipline, then you cannot be of positive interaction. There cannot be a positive interaction because, there can be something going wrong all the time, with the thing like that. Either you are undisciplined or the other being is undisciplined, or something like that, which will create a problem in that interaction. If both beings are disciplined, both beings are wanting to evolve, and both beings are that thing, then the interaction goes in a positive way. So the seventh house interaction becomes a positive thing. So that's the main thing. But a lot of times in today's age, people jump into the seventh house without getting all the six houses in order. The first, especially, So then it becomes an opposition. Okay. So then it becomes the first seventh opposition. Okay. Like when it becomes harmful for the first. Opposition means it's harmful for the first house. Seventh is opposing the first. But if you're approaching it the right way, if you're approaching it with discipline, then it becomes favorable for the first. Okay. And the same way, like when you deal with a being, okay, like any being, you have to know first about yourself, like where you stand and where that being stands. Okay. And for figuring that out, what will you need? Intelligence, fifth house, which we
Yes.
get into the fifth house, the intelligence. Okay. You will have to be clear about the whole thing. Then, as per that, you can interact with that being. Where you, who you are, what you are at, what the other being is at, what is their level, what's your level. Then you know how to interact.
That fifth house of intelligence that you're mentioning, many people in the West regard that as judging and judgment. And I just want to clarify, it's not a judgment, it's a discernment.
Yeah, discernment. Yeah, discernment. I mean, if you don't discern anything, then you can't do anything anyways in life, you know.
Exactly. And yeah, and there's this new age trap. I see it all the time. I've just been subjected to it. It's trapping it off and saying, oh, you're recognizing this as what it is.
Yeah.
You're just judging.
Yeah. That's a word they like to use as a negative word, right?
Exactly.
Even though the same people would go to a vegetable stall and judge which vegetable is better, and then take that. Like,
it's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And which one is moldy and which one is fresh and which one is, you know, I mean, the same people will do that, right? Like, and so it's this whole thing is about discernment and then discipline after that, and then only you can have this. There's so much problem with the seventh house right now in today's world, right? There's so much problem like in dealing with between beings. Like there's all kinds of problems which are arising from that, you know, and that is because the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth are not in order, and people are not working to get that in order before the seventh begins. Okay, and if you don't apply intelligence and discipline to this, then the interaction will not be fruitful for both parties, which it should be. What's the point? Everything should be positive. Like every house in the chart should be for the positive, right? For evolution, right? That's what it is for. So the seventh house is for that too. So like when you interact with beings and you learn something and which helps you and everything, that also comes from seventh house, right? Because you're interacting with them. They're seventh at the time when they're dealing with you. Anybody who comes in front of you is seventh house, right? So that is the main crux of the situation here. It's not just marriage or any of these things which people say right now. In fact, every interaction you have with another being comes in front of you is seventh house. Okay. And obviously, like in first house, you are alone. Like when you are alone by yourself, you're in first house, right? You're not dealing with anybody.
Yes.
Whenever you're dealing with someone else, then seventh house starts. That's automatic. Okay. But first house can be positive. When you're alone, you can be doing work to evolve yourself. Okay. And when you are in seventh house, you can be learning and doing work to evolve yourself in the seventh house too. So there is no contradiction between the two. First and seventh become the same. Okay. So this is the thing.
So are you saying in that dynamic that others in that positive situation can help you work on yourself to continue to evolve?
Yes, obviously, like because in that, if you will have to be appropriate. Okay. In seventh house, everything is about appropriateness again. Okay. Like depending on who you're dealing with, you deal with them as per they have to be dealt with. Okay. So that appropriateness, but how will you know what's appropriate? Okay. Because you will have to develop intelligence first, the fifth house. Okay. And then you will have to practice that in the sixth house. Then you have that practice and discipline to be able to apply it in the seventh house. Okay. So that's how the houses are having connected thing, you know, up till now we have been connecting them from the beginning.
Yes.
Like with threads. There are threads growing from each house into the next. And the thread from the sixth house, you know, like right now also when people deal with people is like once they have done all their things, you know, like daily routines and everything, then only you deal with people, isn't it? You don't deal with people before that.
Yes.
You know, so sixth house still happens before the seventh house. Always, you know, so that's the thing. So that's the whole crux of the seventh house actually. So where it will not take away from your first house, because for most people, the way they use it, it takes away from the first house, which is your own self and self-evolution, which it should not.
Yes. I totally resonate with that. When you do get involved with people that you can consider toxic or having bad habits or not fully aware yet, and you get in these entanglements, it can bring down your energy.
First house. What is coming down? The first house.
The first,
then what,
exactly.
So what do you have then? That's when you have the opposition.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you have the opposition. In those cases, to have a discernment that you will not deal with that being. Okay, you like ignore that and not deal with that. Okay, that intelligence comes from fifth house again. And so seventh house doesn't mean that you have to deal with everybody. You can pick and choose.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So whom you deal with and don't deal with. And how much you deal with whom and everything. Okay, so that fifth house discernment is coming and all of that sixth house discipline is coming. And then dealing is happening in the seventh house accordingly. Okay. And the dealing will be beneficial to the first house. Then, so there can be no negative patterns you can fall into in terms of seventh house, which most of the world is suffering from right now. Mm-hmm. If you get the intelligence and the discipline right, the diet, everything, second house diet, we have everything, self-work, everything covered up till now. Like a preparation for the self, like your hygiene, your everything is done from your side. Do you know what I'm saying? Your practicality, hygiene, intelligence, everything is set, right? Then only are you dealing with others, which is other beings, seventh house. Okay, so that's what people have to understand, like about seventh house. That's because it's a big issue in this world right now, like this craziness of mindless dealings, negative dealings, and all kinds of negative spirals, which are coming out of this house. So we dealt with the first opposition, okay, which is not really an opposition. It can become a complementary thing. Seventh can complement the first, okay. But for that, you have to be prepared and ready, having done the work, So that is the key here in this. So,
is there a reflection of contracts having to do in the seventh house?
Okay. See, whenever you're dealing with any beings, there are terms and conditions. Automatically, whenever you deal with any being, automatically, okay, like James saying, depending on your discernment, like which I told you about, intelligence, discernment. And that is it. That's the basis. There's always a basis for any dealing, right? Mm-hmm. All dealings have a basis. Okay. So that basis, and in these times becomes contracts and papers and stuff, because that's the kind of world we live in. Do you know what I'm saying? In another time, it'll just be the basis of dealings.
Yeah, because people aren't really of their word now, as to before they said their word, and that was it.
Yeah. So in another time, that was just the basis of the dealings. Now those things have to be written and that thing and proved and published and all kinds of things. And so that is just the time we are living in right now, and in another time, like it might not be so.
Absolutely. I do want to emphasize what PT is sharing here. A lot of people think the seventh house, they go to it to see, oh, what is my marriage partner going to be like? Marriage. And astrology and this house, it wasn't based originally on the concept of marriage. So I just really want to emphasize that for those of you that, maybe are missing and don't understand that tying in here.
Yeah. Any being you meet, any person you meet, like you go to a shop, like right now you're meeting somebody, you're dealing with a person to buy something. Okay, anything is seventh house.
Mm-hmm. So let's do like a practical example. Like what would a sun or a Rahu be like in the seventh house? Meeting eccentric people, and the sun would be meeting more masculine dominant figures, or what would you say?
Like, I mean, any graha will color the thing. Mm-hmm. Like it's like what kind of dealings you might have like under that thing. Okay, like if sun is in seventh house, for example, okay, then all the dealings will happen in the day more.
Oh,
okay,
wow.
Or in the light more, or whatever dealings are there, which will be more known to everything. There's more light being shed on it, like Jim saying.
Oh, okay.
For example, like that can be an interview or anything, you know, like the whole world is watching that. Okay, light has come on it, like I'm saying, or something like that, or anything. That's what. So just people should just apply that as coloring the interaction. That's all.
Okay.
That's the whole point. Like rather than you'll meet only these kind of people or not, that's not the point. Exactly, because there's a graha which is ruling the seventh house as well. There's a nakshatra lord. There are so many things on so many levels of that. So like people should not make that kind of thing. But just when a graha is there, they should just see how it'll color. Like I gave examples for the other houses previously. People can see, you know, in this also it'll be like that. You know, like more seventh house means more dealings in the sun. So what is sun like? You know, in sunlight you can see everything. You know what is what exactly. You know, so those beings are looking for very clear dealings in that clarity in the day, in the sun, and in the light, and very that things. So,
and Rahu.
like Rahu again. I'm talking about positive. I'll only talk about positive things. I will not talk negatively and stuff. So the positive thing with Rahu will be like you are seeking like knowledge and wisdom beyond the matrix. Okay, beyond the matrix. Okay, so then you want the dealing to deal with that. You want the dealing to be about that. Do you know what I'm saying? Knowledge, hidden knowledge, more things which like breaking out of the matrix and things like that.
So you will seek and interact with people whom can bring you that knowledge that are outside the matrix.
And interest in that direction where you want that dealing to have that final result.
Okay.
You want that result finally, that should be the outcome, so like in which can be evolving, because if you do that you will evolve, because knowing more than before, like working for a higher goal, all of that leads to evolution. Okay, so it can be used for evolution, the same placement.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful. So is there anything else that you would like to share on the seventh house?
No, this is it. Like I just wanted people to understand that it is the seventh house has to be complementary to the first house. It has to aid the first house. But for that to happen, you will have to do all the first to sixth house discipline right. And apply the intelligence and the discipline, fifth house and the sixth house, into the seventh house. Okay, then only it will work out. Okay, so that's in any dealing, so you can keep it positive, all dealings with all other beings. Do you know what I'm saying? In that way. And the dealing might even mean like when you're not dealing, decide when you choose not to deal. But that's also a positive thing for them and you both as well. So like just to keep it positive in that kind of way. That's the whole point. Yeah. That's my message on the seventh house.